Hello and welcome to EDHREC's Upping the Average, where we take a commander's average deck list as compiled by the data on EDHREC and make some quick swaps to it to help take it from a good start to a great one. I realized a little while ago that I've never actually done an Upping the Average video for a mono-white commander, and while I was ruminating and trying to decide what commander I would want to talk about, it turns out that our latest set has already answered my prayers, because we've got a brand new mono-white angel commander. Giada, Font of Hope is, if you'll pardon the pun, a total blessing. 2 mana 2/2 Flying Vigilance and a mana dork for angel spells? That's kind of perfect, because those other angels tend to cost a lot of mana. She even buffs up each new angel we get for each angel we already control, rewarding us if we can keep up our momentum. Giada is already the second most popular commander from New Capenna, including both the main set and the commander decks. That's wild for a mono-colored commander. We rarely get to see that happen, especially in a set that focuses on 3-color decks. She's been climbing the mono-white ranks too, already leading over 1,000 decks. I honestly won't be surprised if she's among the top 3 mono-white commanders by the end of this month. And just look at this EDHREC page. This is splendid stuff. Giada has really captured people's hearts. So let's hop to it. We'll take Giada's average deck list from the average deck feature and import it to the Architect deck building website. As always in this series, any swaps we make must either keep the total price of the deck cost neutral or else help lower the overall cost of the deck. To anyone who's built Lyra Dawnbringer as a mono-white angel tribal deck, Giada's 99 will look very familiar. However, where Lyra was already another big powerful angel, Giada more gracefully facilitates an angel strategy by subtly helping us play those big angels a turn earlier. There's a small life gain theme going on here too, which I admit I was a little skeptical about at first, but a lot of this life gain is incidental, just cool bonuses that are tacked on to already good and cool cards. And our payoffs for gaining life include things like card draw and additional angel making, so that life gain sub-theme is actually pretty darn useful. Before we get to our cuts and swaps, we want to get familiar with Giada's core cards. Truth be told, this will be a short section. We like angels, period. Avacyn's, Sepharas, big beaters that protect our board, it's the very best thing. We even have both halves of Brizella here, should the opportunity ever arise to meld them together. When it comes to the life gain, some of the cards really hit us over the head with it, but some of them are just good angels we'd play regardless of the life gain, and we're really happy to see the extra bonus that fits in with this tribe. It's notable also that this deck contains a lot of cost reduction ramp to help Giada out too, because this deck is full of a lot of 7-drops and we want to be able to cast them reliably. And of course, we all know mono-white's issues with card advantage. This deck contains a few very decent card advantage options, although we could always use more, and it's really up to us as the pilot of this deck to find card advantage through methods of recursion or preventing our cards from ever going away in the first place, to help us maintain our status in the game. So let's get swapping. There will be 2 sections for this video, a few straight across upgrades for the deck as it currently is, and a budget section as well. That's right, there will be 2 deck lists in the description, so we'd better get started ASAP. Let's dive right into part 1. Listen, the cards we're about to talk about are going to be really fun, the swaps that we'll make are really interesting, but independent of any cards that go into the 99 of the deck, the key to success for playing mono-white is exactly one thing. You gotta play mono-white like it's mono-white, not like it's Simic. We wouldn't play a mono-red deck like it's Azorius. These are completely different color combinations that have different needs, different goals, different momentums, different strategies. We need to understand our strengths and lean into those. To succeed when playing mono-white, you gotta have the right mindset. First, note the land count here. 33 is a smidge too low for me, but Giada is a source of ramp in the command zone, which is why we can get away with having fewer lands. And most importantly, this deck kinda can't afford to flood out. I'd feel better with at least 1 more here, and I really want to get a Bonder's Enclave into this list, because incidental card draw could help us maintain momentum. I'll also swap out a Plains for a simple old guildless commons, which guarantees a future land drop, and it even helps us enable our land tax effects too. However, the first card that my eyes darted towards when making cuts in this deck list was this here, Rebuff the Wicked. What is this doing here? Counter a very specific type of spell? Yeah, why not play a protection spell instead? That would also negate a spell that's targeting our stuff, and protection has other great applications too. I'm exchanging this card straight across for Brave the Elements. This is one of Mono White's best card options. Save the board from a Blasphemous Act, or save your best creature from pinpoint removal, or heck, make your team unblockable from a specific color. If we're gonna play Mono White, we should play Brave the Elements. It's one of Mono White's best features. The next card that caught my eye is over in the sorcery pile. Entreat the Angels, you are a curious case. Giada can't help cast you. You're either 5 mana for a 4/4 or 7 mana for 2 of them. With Giada in play, they will each get at least 1/1 counter, which is nice, but this is a lot of mana, and we don't have top deck manipulation in here to ever guarantee getting the miracle cost. I like this card. In fact, put a pin in it. We'll return to it in part 2. But given this deck's current configuration, I prefer Imperial Storm. This isn't usually a swell card, but it's basically always 6 mana for 2 angels, sometimes 3, and since they each come in 1 at a time, Giada makes them progressively bigger. I never thought that I would find a home for Imperial Storm, but this deck seems to be it. Next, a controversial cut. Feel free to ignore me here, for real, but I didn't much care for Sarah. 4 mana for a 4/4 is fine. It's just that that's also usually all that she does. Sarah is fragile, and that pump effect is minimal. I just never felt like we got $15 worth out of this card. If you're in it for the flavor, though, I can't fault you at all for that. I just personally have some other angels that I want to add in that I think will do more for us, and they cost less money, too. But here's where it gets even more controversial. This deck is home to some very big bad angels, but it also happens to contain a small handful of small angels too, Segovian Angel and Youthful Valkyrie. So look, these are cute, especially the Valkyrie, which does admittedly have a lot of potential as the game goes on, but holy wow, these are miserable cards to top deck late game. And that, to me, makes all the difference here. Oh, and last one real quick, Resplendent Marshal, get out of here. This card wants to exile our angels to give out tiny pumps. No, our deck contains Reanimating Angels. I'm going to heed the advice from Kristen, a renowned Mono White player and Commander Advisory Group member. This card, Resplendent Marshal, works against our plan. It's cheap to play, and that's nice, but this isn't the card that Angel Tribal deserves. So that begs the question, which angels is this deck missing? There are so many of them here, surely all of the best ones have been accounted for, right? Well, yes, almost all of them, but I have 3 more that I think really ought to share the spotlight here. Breathkeeper Seraph, Sigarda's Vanguard, and Angelic Sleuth. Breathkeeper Seraph soul bonds and saves 2 bodies over and over again. Terrific. The Vanguard is secretly just amazing here, giving some, if not all, of our creatures double strike, doubling our damage clock out of nowhere. And the Sleuth? How is this not already in the deck? It's cheap, it helps draw cards, get it in here. And that's it for the official swaps, but I'll swiftly call out some high-budget honorable mentions before we go. First, you can always use more card draw in Mono White. Smuggler's Share has been impressing folks ever since it was printed, and the Immortal Sun is right up our alley too. Alhammarret's Archive strikes me as an especially useful card here because it doubles extra card draw and all of our life gain, making us really hard to eliminate. And I'll shout out Tome of Legends here too, which has been creeping up in price lately. Oh, and if you need more boosts of mana, Extraplanar Lens is waiting eagerly to help this deck out, most likely with the assistance of snow-covered lands. Alrighty, that's our deck. You can find a link to this version of the list below, but there's a reason that I kept this part short and sweet, because now it's time for the budget version. One of the awkward realities of building Mono White is that it tends to be a bit harder to do on a budget than other color combinations. A lot of White's best and most compelling EDH cards tend to be really expensive. Teferi's Protection, Smothering Tithe, all over $40. Anything that draws you a lot of extra cards is usually like some rare artifact and therefore it's over $10. Or some of the best angels, some of the cards that make Giada Angel Tribal so appealing to play in the first place, like Archangel of Thune and Lyra and Avacyn. Those also tend to be really spendy. And here in the budget section, they're all gonna get cut, even though those might be the cards that inspired you to want to build Giada in the first place. It's a little bit awkward, but the point here is that building Mono White on a budget is not impossible, obviously. It just might be a little bit more difficult. And what I wanna do here is throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall, and based on your angelic needs, it's up to you to decide what sticks. When I make a budget version of a deck, I always cut anything that costs over 10 bucks. In this deck's case, that means we're cutting over 20 cards. That's kind of a lot. That's a lot. Some of our favorite angels, gone. Our favorite staples, also gone. It's a very interesting quirk of this deck that a bunch of its favorite cards are also high demand cards for other strategies. You may already own some or all of the cards that are getting cut here, and I encourage you to play them if you do have them. This section is, as they say, more of a guideline. I want to offer a smorgasbord of potential budget ideas to choose from. And because of all these cuts, that means we have a lot of cards to add back in. First, we lost a handful of mana sources like Smothering Tithe or the Incubator or Nykthos, so let's replace them. These 3 rocks here are very standard fare, but I like them regardless. 3 mana rocks are actually pretty fitting for us too, because Giada herself is usually our turn 2 play. While we're here, I'll also add in a Roadside Reliquary and a Sajiri Shelter. Reliquary could be just the boost of cards that we need late game, and Shelter is just really nice flexibility. Alright, now to the tough part. We lost a lot of card draw in the budget culling, so we need to find a way to recoup some of that. These won't be the very best choices out there, but something is better than nothing. The trio of Mazemind, Pyramid, and Atlas are all functional. Soup up these card slots as soon as you can, but they work in a pinch, especially if you're judicious with your mana. Personally, I'm a little bit more excited about this other addition, Mask of Memory. Our commander's an evasive 2-drop, so this card could put in a pretty good deal of work. And since there's so much life gain in this deck too, Well of Lost Dreams pulls more weight than I thought it would. Attack with 1 random lifelinking angel and then pay 5 mana to completely refill the hand? That's a really good feeling. I'm all about it. It's not just about drawing cards though, it's also about protecting the board. Rootborn defenses might seem silly, but from where I'm standing, it's a pretty good replacement for those flawless maneuver style cards that we lost. And we also have a lot of cards here that make angel tokens, so we probably will get a free angel out of that populate effect while we're at it. You know what though, that's not enough. Let's get Lapse of Certainty in here too. Mono white counterspell is hardly the kind of thing that people see coming, but it's a doozy when it does. And to spruce up some of the removal, I don't know about y'all, but I always like the card Ravnica at War in mono white decks. The vast majority of decks out there are multicolored, so this card usually gets rid of every opponent's commander, plus the occasional Planeswalker or Aura Shards or Notion Thief or Mirari's Wake. Need I go on? This card is clever and it will really surprise your enemies. And all of that brings us back to the angels. We had to eliminate 8 angels for the budget, and that's a really big cut to the soul of the deck. So I'm actually going to open this section with a quick twist in time, because there are some cards that I cut in section 1 that I am more than happy to get back for section 2. Segovian Angel, Youthful Valkyrie, and even Entreat the Angels are all perfectly good cards on a budget. The only reason I cut them in part 1 was because of how tuned up that version of the deck already was, but these are still fun cards and we are happy to play them here. Whoa, hold up, sorry. When I first recorded that, I was not aware of the fact that apparently Youthful Valkyrie has spiked up in price. Yeah, it's not worth that amount, and therefore it no longer goes into the budget version of the deck. So I'm gonna throw in an Angelic Arbiter instead, because this one's really fun and it can really torment our opponents. Now it's on to the big beasties though. Let's go 4, 5, and 6 for some eager budget angels. Guardian Seraph helps protect us from token decks. Enduring Angel is nice when it gets pumped up by Giada's +1 counters. And Twilight Shepherd is a really nice insurance policy. And I really like all of these, but truth be told, I think my actual favorite angel to include here will be Angel of the Ruins. The plane cycling will help us make sure we've got our mana in the early game, and again, we have some reanimating angels that can get us right back out of the graveyard. And truthfully, that exile ability is also just really nice value. And I saved the funniest inclusion for last. Herald of the Host is, again, a card I'm surprised to add here, but a card that I'm happy to play when building Giada on a budget. It's a simple flying vigilance creature, but every time it attacks each opponent, and those myriad tokens come in with additional counters because of Giada, so we can flex how much damage we're doing to each player, and any of our cards that trigger off of angels entering the battlefield will probably gain us additional life, which usually means additional angel tokens at the end of turn 2. This card completely activates my inner Timmy, and it's so much fun to play here. Okie doke, that should do it. Here we have our budget Giada deck list. You can find a link to both versions of the deck in the description box below, with the cuts in the maybe board. I font of hope that you had a great time with Giada, font of hope, and if you have any recommendations that you'd like to make for your fellow Angel Tribal players, make sure you leave your suggestions down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching.